to ask the First Minister what engagement she has planned for the rest of the week.
First Minister.
Engagements to take forward the Government's programme for Scotland.
Kezia Dugdale.
In September, I asked the First Minister about the number of young people being referred for mental health treatment, only to have that referral rejected. At the time, the First Minister expressed concern and said she was determined to act. So can the First Minister now tell us how many more cases of young people with a referral have been rejected for mental health treatment since I last brought this crisis to the Chamber?
First Minister.
Look, we continue to invest in improving our mental health services. I've made it very clear to voices across this chamber the priority we attach to that as a government. We do have rising demand for mental health services, which I've said before is something we should welcome because it means the stigma is reducing and more people are coming forward. We're seeing waiting times reduce. We are seeing more people treated. We are seeing not just rising investment but rising numbers of staff. I do accept, though, absolutely readily accept that we have got much more work still to do. We're not unique in that sense in Scotland. Many countries are experiencing the same challenges, but we're absolutely determined through our investment and through our new mental health strategy that we will meet those challenges head on.
Kezia Dugdale.
The members will have noticed the First Minister was unable to answer that question, so let me share the reality with her. Since the First Minister promised to act, there have been another 1,600 cases of young people who were rejected for mental health treatment. That takes the total now to 10,500 cases overall. That's thousands and thousands of children and young adults in crisis who have turned to professionals for help only to be turned away. And we could reduce the number of young people needing clinical treatment in the first place. School-based counselling is key to that. 5 months ago, I came to this chamber with a published plan for every secondary school to have access to a qualified counsellor, and the First Minister said she would look at it. We weren't asking for any new money, just a fraction of the £150 million the government is already spending on mental health. So we've had the warm words, First Minister. When will we get the action?
First Minister.
As Kezia Dugdale knows, the plans that she brought forward are being looked at in the context of developing the mental health strategy. That is work that is ongoing, and I would have thought Kezia Dugdale would have welcomed that work and the consideration that is being given to those plans. In terms of numbers, though, let me point out to Kezia Dugdale that in terms of recent statistics, the number of patients seen by CAMHS services has increased by 21%. We've seen long waits reducing, and we've seen the number of patients seen within the waiting times also improving. So, this is progress, but it is progress on an issue where I have readily accepted and continue to do so that we need to do more work. That's why the £150 million of extra investment backing the mental health strategy is so important. And on an issue that is so important, and I think we all agree about its importance, I would hope that all of us in the chamber would get behind it.
Kezia Dugdale.
The First Minister just said there that her government are looking at it and she's considering it as part of the mental health strategy. That's really interesting because that's not what Maureen Watt told the Health Committee back in January. In fact, she told the Health Committee that provision of counsellors in schools was a matter for local authorities. And how on earth does the First Minister think local authorities can do this when they're faced with millions of pounds worth of cuts? And the cuts we are faced with voting on this afternoon will make it all the harder for schools and other local services to provide the help that young people need. These cuts will punish kids already in crisis. It doesn't have to be this way. So will the First Minister do the right thing, scrap the cuts and invest in Scotland's public services instead?
First Minister.
Firstly, any mental health strategy that is going to be successful has to involve the Scottish Government working not just with the National Health Service but with local authorities. So the fact that counsellors is a matter for local authorities doesn't mean that it's not something we will look at in terms of the mental health strategy. I thought that point would have been very obvious. And in terms of the budget, Kezia Dugdale stands up here and talks about extra funding for mental health services. But Kezia Dugdale and her colleagues are intending to vote against a budget today that includes extra commitment to mental health services. And, Kezia Dugdale's approach to this budget, which has involved Her, as the leader of the third party, coming to the party that won the election and saying that they'll only talk to us if effectively we rip up our own manifesto and implement theirs, not so much student politics as the politics of the playground. And it's that lack of any constructive approach to the budget that has meant Labour has rendered itself irrelevant, had no influence and delivered absolutely nothing on behalf of the people they're supposed to represent. When it comes to the budget discussions, Labour should be deeply ashamed of itself.